What is the pettiest thing you have done after a breakup? I waited until 15 minutes before the new season of Game of Thrones started to change the password on my HBO account that I knew he was still using. Was in a relationship for 2 years, 2 years too long. He was an abusive alcoholic that was lovingly manipulative when sober. Broke up with him after having to call the police on him after a rather rough night. 2 weeks later and I'm staying strong, telling him he has to be sober for at least a year before I would ever consider giving him another chance. For the first time I stuck to my no, which was new for him and he very much so did not like it. Him then spilling that he had been cheating on me for 2 months anyways with a girl he had sworn he was just friends with. 2 months later I'm going through a junk drawer of mine and I found I still had his spare car key. I am not an angry person day to day and I honestly don't even wish anything bad towards him. I did however move his car 2 blocks every morning for a week. And on the last day, after what I'm sure was a week of being late to work and feeling on the verge of insanity, I left his car where he had parked it. I did also though turn the volume to max and move everything movable slightly. Do I think it was healthy? Not really, but it did fucking feel great. In 2010, I found out my fiancé had been having an affair with our neighbor, for the past 6 months, 2 weeks before our wedding. His best man broke down and told me. For 8 years, I have been giving creepy dudes my ex's phone number instead of mine. His sister always texts me his new phone number when he changes it. She also sends photos and video of him losing his mind angry when he gets a call from a dude looking for a hookup. Tears of joy. His sister is the real MVP here, though. The ex cheated on me after 12 years with someone he met at work. When that went sour he lost his job and ended up falling behind on his car payment. The repo company had my place as his last known address, so when they showed up here looking for the car I invited them in, used Facebook to get them as much info on the ex and new girlfriend as possible, gave them his parents' address and sent them on their way with a smile. I hope I'm not too late to this, but I loosened the seams in all his pants and shorts so that as soon as he sat they'd rip open on him. It's been 10 years and that still makes me laugh. Oh, this is my time to shine. I'll preface my description of my own behavior by saying I'd left an insanely abusive relationship where I was terrorized in my own home for longer than I should have allowed it to go on. My ex is, a callous drunk, meaner with every round. My last weekend in our shared home, I'd been in and out of the hospital for weeks with colitis, and was in my bed trying to rest. We'd broken up the week before, after he drank 24 beer and drove home to tell me I was shit, but we're still sorting out living arrangements. He called, clearly wasted, and said he was on his way home with a crew to watch football on our giant surround system. I said no. I needed rest. I guess he wanted to look cool in front of his buds, because he threatened to kill me if I was there when he got home. It wasn't the first time, but I decided it was the last time. So I left. And I never went back. I only packed 1 bag that day. Here I am with the contents. There would be no football. And for about a year after, long after we'd divided the property, he'd text asking about a remote. Nope. Haven't seen M. Did you check in the couch? ETA this kind if blew up, so I pulled my pic. It was of me, with an armful of every remote in the house, and a little smirk on my face. After the bro I was dating gave me the silent treatment for a week, while we lived together, and then I found out he was cheating on me, I hid all his protein powder in his dirty laundry. He called the cops about 3 weeks later, who then showed up at my house asking about stolen protein powder. I informed them that no, it wasn't stolen, and if he had done his laundry in the last 3 weeks he would have found it. One cop looked annoyed, but the other one burst out laughing. Wish I could have seen my ex's face when the cops informed him he needed to do his laundry. He repeatedly cheated on me with multiple women, so I had my pregnant roommate piss on a test and then just dropped it at his front door. No note, no way to know who it came from. The panic was real. Yes. In person and through his best friend. He found out I was in the I have some chronic health issues, but he thought it was because I was pregnant. He showed up and started hounding the doctor for answers and tests. I told him no, I was not pregnant, and he disappeared from my life after that. But according to his friend, it took a long time to get through his list of other girls in his attempt to find his potential baby mama. Unfortunately, most were one-night stands off of Tinder, so he couldn't contact most of them. I moved shortly after, so as far as I know, he still thinks he's got a kid out there somewhere. Now, send him a printed photo of a kid about the right age. Keep this going every year, following up randomly with trashily written letters asking for child support. He always spoke about how he hated his dad for cheating, lying to his mom. So when I find out he cheated on me with multiple women, I went to his apartment and found a photo of us on his bedside table, wrote "just like your daddy" on it. I also took all his toilet paper, hand soap, because even though he was the 25-year-old man with a job, I was a 19-year-old college student. He apparently couldn't buy his own shit, I had to buy it for him. So technically it was mine. I put prawns in his curtain pole. I let my ex keep our cat we got together, after he begged me. Only to have him call me a month later saying he didn't want the cat anymore. When I went to get the cat from our old house, I found that my ex hadn't cleaned the cat litter since before I moved out. I was mostly mad for the kitten Sake. Honestly, I doubt my ex took care of him at all. A fight broke out after he refused to clean the litter up, so I ended up dumping the whole litter box right on his living room floor. Then I stormed out with the litter box in one arm and the cat in the other. Side note: kitten is 6 now. Found out my ex and his friends were awful to the poor little guy, so I'm glad I took him when I did. Cut the sleeve off of a dress shirt the other woman had bought him and put it back in the closet so only the good arm was showing. Got a text from him a couple weeks later that simply said, "Are you fucking serious?" Yes. Yes, I am. My husband of 24 years was cheating on me. I figured it out about 2 months after it really started. But he kept the identity of the other woman a secret. A few weeks before our divorce, I decided I needed to know why it was such a mystery, so I did some investigating. Turns out it was a coworker who was also married. So I went to their house and knocked on the door and told her husband. My ex had the nerve to call me and accuse me of ruining people's lives. #Team Petty. I still use my ex's phone number for his Walgreens card. He's so stingy, I know he'll never redeem any of his points, so I randomly get $5 per $10 off at Walgreens. My ex was super into the drift scene and loved cool cars, but he was always super broke. He broke up with me on Christmas Day by gifting me a pair of socks and telling me it wasn't working out after I had bought him a ton of nice Christmas gifts. The next week I took all my hard-earned money I was saving up to buy myself a new car and bought the exact one he talked about constantly but was too broke to buy himself. Made sure he saw it by driving through the parking garage he was working at as the ticket guy, and it felt fucking good to see his face as he handed me that ticket. I wrote a song, recorded it, and released it on Spotify, Apple Music, Pandora, etc. It's a great song. Not gonna lie, it's a pretty awesome song and was worth the crap I went through. He's a professional musician, I do music as a hobby. Lots of fragile ego at play. Update. Wow. Didn't expect this response. Here's a link. Smiley face. Blue is now available for streaming worldwide. Spotify. Link Apple Music. Link Amazon Music. Link YouTube. Link thank you for listening. Edit. Wow, thank you for the gold. The biggest compliment. What a wonderful way to kick off Thanksgiving. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Edit 2. This happened early March. Since then I've met a really wonderful person who I'm optimistic about. Was definitely scary getting into this new thing with all the crap that happened just 8 months ago, but I was very careful to make sure I don't punish this new guy for what the old guy did. Happy to report a good outcome in the end of it all. Edit 3. Holy crap. I just looked at my Spotify page and nearly 2,000 streams? Thank you. I released this song thinking like 12 people would listen to it. Thank you for streaming. I've made a whole $7 off of this song, which is $7 more than I expected to. Wow. I have no words. Thank you. He got another girl pregnant, so of course I broke up with him and demanded he return all of my things, including anything I bought him. He asked for some money he had given me back. Instead I got on my computer and printed out asshole dollars. I printed and cut them out and put them in a sealed envelope. He didn't realize until he got in the cab to go back home he had fake money. And no, I never gave him back his real money. One of my old friend's exes unexpectedly dumped her while they were sharing an apartment and a job she had landed him. They spent a few weeks living together broken up, and he wasted no time going on new dates. My friend decided to rename the petty game. She began by cutting his sneaker laces slightly shorter and recapping them so that they seemed to have shrank. One morning, she hid all of his socks while he was running late for work. He became increasingly frustrated while searching the apartment, so she sent him to check the dryer while she placed all of his socks in the middle of the hamper he'd been checking for the past 20 minutes. Needless to say, he was dumbfounded when he found them later. Perhaps the most lethal troll was about 2 weeks after they'd broken up when she added Chardonnay to his dirty bong prior to him returning from his date. He immediately plopped down on the couch and took a huge rip when he got home, and she just watched like an absolute savage as he repeatedly hit the bong, utterly confused as to why it was roasting his lungs. I logged into his Pokémon Go account and deleted his whole box. I made a new account just for this. I found out a guy I dated for almost a year, and who wanted me to move in with him and wanted to get me pregnant, had been cheating with his ex nearly the whole relationship. He was very insecure about his little member's size, emphasis on little. So after I confronted him about the cheating and he was begging forgiveness, I texted, "Oh, don't stress about it. Just means you've been disappointing 2 women in bed for the last year instead of just one." Super petty but quite effective as an immediate showstopper. A long time ago my ex cheated on me with a friend. So I went on Craigslist and put an ad up for cheap tickets to 98 Degrees, who were coming to town. I put my ex's phone number on it and asked for people to call from 10 p.m. on, because I worked third shit. I've grown up a bit since then, but I still think it's funny. After a messy breakup, my ex kept harassing me at home and at school by shouting awful things at me. I asked him to stop, but he refused because it was too fun. So, in the spirit of fun, I posted a shirtless picture of him, which he posted on social media right after our breakup as another way to psychologically torment me, and his phone number on Craigslist Men Seeking Men page. The headline? Young guy looking for fun. Not only did he have to change his phone number, but he also never bothered me again. I signed my ex up for a bunch of crazy fetish porn using his work email. It's been almost a decade and I still get a good chuckle about it. I returned the fancy expensive never-worn dress shirt he left at my place and exchanged it for a fancy dress for myself. After blocking my ex-boyfriend's number, I would give his number to every guy who asked for my number downtown. I went bar hopping every weekend during that point in my life, so it happened semi-frequently. I'm sure it made his blood boil to have dudes texting his phone looking for me. I broke up with him after being treated badly for too long. He kept sending me vicious emails when I wouldn't answer his calls. I responded describing a fake new boyfriend who goes down on me at least 20 minutes at a time, in Comic Sans font. He was a graphic designer and would rant about how bad that font is on occasion. He knew it was intentional. I went to a Panera Bread after hours and acquired 3 trash bags of bagels and threw them at his house. Thus began your schmear campaign. I spent our year together wearing flats because he was self-conscious that he was slightly shorter than me. When we broke up, I bought the tallest, sexiest heels I could find and wore them to a mutual friend's party. The look on his face when I arrived towering over him was priceless. Oh, another. When I moved out I took everything except I purposely left a box of Magnum condoms half empty in one of the bathroom cabinets. He never could fit into such large protective gear. Penis pictures under mother's pillow. After finding out my then boyfriend of 2 years had cheated on me with multiple girls, I was devastated. Without a blink I printed off 53 copies of his penis, from pictures he had sent me, and hid them around his house, hiding them in boxes of Christmas decorations, under his mother's pillow, inside of his father's pill bottle. Just about anywhere I knew his youngest sister couldn't get into. I was 16 and full of rage. Considering that his mother and father enabled the behavior of their son and called me for months after to forgive him because, it's in the past, I don't regret a thing. I find it both funny and wholesome that you kept his younger sister in mind and uninvolved. My ex had a mediocre wine collection that she was very proud of. Since both of our names were on the rental agreement, we were stuck there for a few months together. Right before I packed up, she was out of town for a trip. I took every bottle out of the wine fridge and placed each one in a pot of boiling water for a few minutes until they were nice and toasty. Then back in the fridge they went. Enjoy that Cabernet Sauvignon vinegar. 05. When my ex-husband left me for another woman in the Philippines, he did not stay to bother moving his stuff and expected me to do it. I put everything up for sale in a garage sale and left for another state myself, knowing all the stuff he rented in his name, like the TV, washer and dryer and other expensive items, were still in the house. 3 years later I get an angry message from him demanding to know why I didn't bother calling the rental place, because now he's got a pending felony for the couple $1,000s worth of unreturned property. This is my sister's story. Her shithead ex gifted her a pair of brand new white Nike Air Trainers. After the breakup, he demanded them back. He had done enough to warrant an application for a domestic violence order, so all 4 of us, me plus 3 sisters, went in on a team effort for this one. We dyed one side of each shoe, one red and one blue. Then we put them in the box, dye side down so you couldn't see it when you opened the box, and gave them back to him that way. As my sister didn't want to see him, I delivered the shoes to his mother's place. The abusive text messages all 4 of us got after he pulled them out of the box were read in mocking voices over glasses of wine. I still had access to his fam's Netflix, so I would change the names to Cheater Lying Poss, I Am Garbage and Treat Women Badly. Someone would just change it back and not log me out LMAO, so maybe his family felt bad for having such a shifty kid and this was their way of showing it. A couple years after the breakup, I turned on some old tablet I hadn't used in years and discovered it had her Netflix login saved. Added a bunch of Naruto to her watchlist and logged out. My ex in high school cheated on me with another girl, and she rubbed it in my face. I knew he was obviously at fault too, but the fact that she got joy out of it pissed me off. I continued sleeping with my ex in spite of her and one time messaged her on Facebook, "Can you tell he left his hat at my house last night? Thanks. Smiley face. Teenage immaturity, but I don't regret it." Ages ago I had a BF that was far wealthier than I and had a MA compared to my BA and never let me forget it. I was young, with almost zero self-esteem. It was a mostly miserable relationship in which he bragged continually and cheated. It was an adversarial relationship and I began to find my spine, and I broke up with him. A couple of years or so later I was eating lunch with my new BF. This one was delightful. Handsome, too. I noticed that the ex-BF, David, was seated at a nearby booth with a bunch of buddies from his work. He saw me, then I heard him say to them that I was his ex, that he had broken my heart, and he was going to make my day. He did this sort of schmoozing walk to me, all smiles. Before he said a word, I stopped him. I told him that he had been a sorry excuse for a boyfriend, that he was the sloppiest kisser and the quickest comer in bed, a real loser as a lover. That he was a selfish, conceited git and that he could just turn around and go finish his lunch. I spoke clearly and loudly enough that his friends could hear every word. A couple of them clapped for me. Petty, I know, and from this distant point in time I can see I really had some anger issues. But, still, it felt great. I took everything but a spoon and a can of beans. Hopefully you took the can opener too. I lived in an arts dorm in college and my ex was a musician. We wrote a song together using a miniature upright piano and a guitar. We lived on the same floor and one day I heard him singing it with some other girl, so then I opened the door, took the piano from under her hands, and I still have it to this day. I literally can't believe I did it, but I thought it was pretty shitty of him to share a love song we wrote together with someone else. And now that piano has a pretty great story attached.